Alright, hello and welcome to part 10, maybe? Part 9, I think. I didn't think about this before starting. Of Not Guilty by BrightBriar. So before we get into this, I feel like we should go over kind of my week so far here in terms of trying to get some stuff recorded. So on Monday, well yeah, today is Thursday by the way, if you didn't know by the date in the bottom left or bottom right. That's the wrong corner. I'm illiterate. Um yeah, it's okay, so it's a Thursday. On Monday, I decided that I was going to do a bunch of recording this week. So I did a bunch of Gmod stuff, and then I didn't get a whole lot done, but I got some stuff done, which I guess it's relatively good. It's good enough. Um, And then I decided that the rest of the week would probably be something along the lines of Tuesday, as in, the next day, being just trying to finish up Gmod, finishing up all the recordings I need to do before I kind of run out of stuff to look at there. And then, obviously, and then not do that. And obviously, yeah, just try to finish it off and then work on other stuff after that. And then on Wednesday I couldn't record, so I was like, oh yeah, we'll just do whatever stuff that day, kind of whatever, what was ever planned, I guess. I don't know, whatever. And today, Thursday, I don't know, I guess probably record this or maybe play some games. But what ended up happening is that I did end up waking up super late, and I was like, there's no point in really recording now because there's all the stuff is going to get in the way. So I decided I was going to play some Lego Indiana Jones 2 on the Wii, the most superior of places to play a Lego game. Actually, no, but it was still like my childhood there. So yes, that's what I did Tuesday instead of recording. Probably don't care that much. Then obviously, like I said yesterday or Wednesday, I couldn't record. And then today, I'm here, not having finished Gmod and still moving on to this while not really being able to do whatever I want because I should get some recording done. And it's my birthday too. Yes, I'm just sitting here on that time. Yeah. Okay, so we are now on chapter 10/chapter 9 because this story is weird because the website Archive of Our Own decides to, that was your own, whatever, decides to put a chapter number in front of each chapter of a story, and then this writer, BrightBriar, who's doing an amazing job, by the way, has also decided to put a chapter in front of their title inside the title. So this is chapter 10, chapter 9, and it's very weird. But that's only because they put a prologue at the beginning. Yeah, I don't know. And I believe since I started reading this, there has been another chapter. Or there has been another chapter read, or another chapter that's been added. Yeah, I don't know. It's about what I got for now. I should probably start reading this, but let's get going. So, as I will say again, welcome back to the reading of Not Guilty by BrightBriar, and this time we're on Chapter 9, Exchange and Stray Cat. Astarte, still don't know how to say it. Astarte, that might be a better way to say it, leaned against the wall of a temple, a glass of red wine in one hand. She took a small sip, sighing contentedly as raw energy flowed through her veins. It was her way of licking figurative wounds. Whew, I needed that. A voice came from the other side of the altar. Are you all right? Shh, I'm fine. I'm a god, for fuck's sake. It takes more than a shadow game to get rid of me. You don't need to worry. But you, I'm fine. There was a pause. I was going to say you're relying on me. Isn't that still right? Astarte was silent. She took another swig of the wine. Astarte. Yes, yes, yes. And if you're relying on me, then I should worry about you sometimes. Sure, yes. There was a long silence. The other person spoke again. So you think getting oh god. So you think getting the girl involved was Hathor's move. Yeah, Astarte glared into her glass, and I'm sure she's stronger than she looks, even on her own, knowing Hathor. I don't know who that is. If only we'd realized it earlier. There was a heavy silence. Then the other person spoke again. I'm going to get some more booze. And you're sure you're fine? Merrick smiled grimly, glancing at Bakura. He just arrived back at Kaibacorp and told the spirit everything that happened with Astarte in the cafe. Yeah, I'm much better. Astarte distracted me. Time to bottle up all that anxiety from before and never think about it ever again. Self-care. The spirit nodded. Yeah, sure. It sounds like there's a lot going on that we don't know about. Merrick frowned, thinking deeply. That's probably an understatement, but hey, at least we got a name. Astarte said that the person who attacked me before was called Hamasaki. Bakura sighed. Yeah, but it's a fairly common family name. We need more than that to find her again. Merrick grimaced. Yeah, I sent Akira a text on my way back asking if she recognized it, but she hasn't responded. That's not surprising. The spirit raised an eyebrow. You really think she would, after she yelled at you and ran away? No, not really, but there's no harm in trying. Bakura paused, tipping his head slightly to one side. That's true, but are you sure you want to prioritize going after Hamasaki over getting the puzzle back? Merrick sighed. No, but we have a lead on Hamasaki, and Akira might just need some time. Besides, it's not like she's in any danger. She just doesn't know how to use a puzzle, let alone start a shadow game or anything. The spirit eyed him thoughtfully for a few moments, then shrugged. If you say so. Merrick said nothing, glancing at the cups of cold, half-drunken tea on the desk. Being honest, he wasn't sure that leaving Akira alone with the puzzle was a good idea. But unless he forcibly took it from her, he didn't have much of a choice. He was kind of hoping that if he gave Akira a couple of days, all this would blow over, he'd be able to explain what happened with those murders properly, Akira would return the puzzle, and everything would be okay. Pursuing Hamasaki was the only thing he could think of in the meantime. We could use the ring, he said suddenly, thinking aloud, glancing at Bakura. It's just like a compass, right? It points out whatever you're looking for. Shouldn't you know this already? Bakura raised an eyebrow at Merrick. If you want to openly hold a conspicuous magic gold artifact out in front of you while you walk aimlessly around the city for God knows how long, for gods know how long? Whatever. Then be my guest. I don't think we should use the item so openly. After a moment's thought, Merrick made a quiet noise of agreement, sitting down in the ergonomic chair behind the office desk and pulling out his phone as if that might give him an idea. He opened up his contacts, absently scrolling through them to see if he could get in touch with anyone who might know about this Hamasaki person. He didn't expect to. He didn't have many names as contacts. He paused as his eyes landed on one that was oddly unfamiliar. Hirata Hiroki. He frowned. He knew he'd heard that name somewhere before, but he had no idea where. There was no photo. Hey, Bakura, do you remember the name Hirata Hiroki? The spirit frowned, staring intently at Merrick's desk floating just above the table as it shuffled itself, not taking his eyes off of it. No, why? It's in my contacts. I can't remember who it is. If they're from Japan, then I must have come across them recently. The only people whose numbers I saved from Battle City are Yugi's friends. Crossing his legs in his chair, he sent Hirata a text. Hi, Hirata. I've got your number in my phone, but I've forgotten who you are. Maybe. Oh, I met you at Jesus Christ. I met you at Kyoru Tadako's funeral. Haha, bad use of a smiley face. Well, that's where you know me from. Merrick's eyes widened. Oh, right. I guess I accidentally blocked out the entire day because of the trauma with my dad. Self-care. Oh my gosh, I remember now. Sorry about that. All good, dude. You seem super out of it. You said you're trying to work out what happened to Tadako? How's that going? Um, Merrick almost laughed. He felt like responding with badly was both an understatement and not the kind of reassurement that a wouldn't it be reassurance? Anyways, that a friend of Tadako's would want. He decided to dodge the question altogether. Actually, you might be able to help me. Is the name Hamasaki familiar to you at all? Yeah, it is actually. Let me think. You mean Taylor? Ginger hair? Yeah, she died it recently. She was Tadako's girlfriend. Died! um, cause, like, dumb as fuck. Anyways. Merrick blinked, his eyes going round. For some reason he hadn't been expecting anything like that. Holy shit, Bakura. He looked over. The deck of cards fell onto the table in a heap as his concentration wavered. What? Read this. He angled the phone towards Bakura and the spirit leaned closer, his eyebrows shooting upwards. Good work. Merrick's lip quirked up slightly as he typed a reply. You wouldn't happen to have her phone number or something, would you? No phone number, but she's on Twitter. You wanted to talk to her? Yeah, if that's possible. I'll shoot her a message now. No phone number, but she's on Twitter. Alright then. Merrick placed the phone on the table, glancing at Bakura. Well, that's progress. The spirit nodded, returning to the cards. Yeah, sure. Okay. Merrick yawned, stretching. Being honest, as much as the events of the morning had put him on edge, they'd also made him more than a little tired. He glanced at Bakura. What are you trying to do with those cards anyways? You'll see. Actually, he broke off, his eyes following the cards as they floated back to the table in a neat pile, or maybe the cards were following his eyes. Pick up that top card, will you? He blinked, reaching over. What, this one? Yeah, see if it's a fire princess. Merrick frowned. It's Ghost Knight of Jackal. The spirit glowered at the deck. Never mind. The card struggled in his grip for a moment. Merrick opened his fingers and it flew back to the deck. He blinked at Bakura. How long have you been able to do that anyway? Levitating things, I mean. Since I came back. Probably a ghost thing. Only works with really light stuff. Huh. Bakura shrugged, shuffling Ghost Knight of Jackal back into the deck, then glancing at Merrick. I hadn't realized you'd taken Hinotama out of your deck. Merrick swallowed, suddenly feeling uneasy. Hinotama was definitely no longer his favorite card. It wasn't even something that reminded him of him. It reminded him of an older version of the him who was actually him, who he didn't particularly like anymore. I took a lot of cards out of my deck, he said slowly. True, but that one was, I don't know, iconic. Merrick smiled wryly. I'd say Winged Dragon of Ra was more iconic. I was kind of forced to take it out too. Bakura shrugged. Anyway, the new ones suit you. Might even suit you better, actually. Maybe. I haven't had much of a chance to use them. Oh, God. He broke off as he heard his phone buzz. And two messages appeared on his home screen from an unknown number. Hey, fam, it's Taylor. I'm free this Avo. You down for ramen? Oh, yeah, bring the spooky ghost guy, too. Oh, God. Oh, my God. I need to stop. Taking a drink of water after that one. Fam. Alright, so Merrick said, sitting across the table from Taylor, who wore the same hoodie as she had that morning. You jumped through my window, accused me of murder, tried to kill me, and then called me fam. Taylor sipped on her soft drink, looking at Merrick. And that just about sums it up, yeah. It was odd. Sitting with her in a small, dark, fairly cheap cafe, it was easy to forget just how much of a threat she'd been this morning. They'd found a table in the corner with 4 seats, but Cora sat to Merrick's right, looking uncomfortable. Taylor seemed completely at ease, although Merrick hadn't missed the fact that she'd chosen to sit at the edge of the table where she had an escape route. It was something he'd noticed Bakura doing before. Without the hood and scarf obscuring her face, he could make out her features much more easily. Like Hirata had said, her hair had been dyed a pale, almost pastel ginger color. It was short, thick, and almost looked fluffy, having been swept to one side. But she also had an undercut on the left side of her head, and there her roots were clearly dark. Her bright hazel eyes had a distinct slant to them, and her features were all sharp and angular. A single gold earring hung from her left ear where it wasn't obscured by her hair. Merrick was entirely unsure of what to make of her. He sat holding the rod on the table, resting it in his lap, but if Taylor had realized, she didn't show any sign. He swallowed. You've got a lot I think you could explain. Like what? Merrick opened his mouth to speak, but Bakura cut in, looking royally pissed. Like why the rod doesn't have any effect on you. How you know about the Millennium items. Why you can see me. What you know. Taylor nodded. But sure I can do that, but I want something out of it. Merrick and Bakura exchanged a wary glance. Merrick frowned at her. Like what? She shrugged, crossing her ankle over her knee. I don't know, something interesting. Or just money. What have you got? Merrick bit his lip. They had the items, and that was about it. How much money are we talking? 20,000 yen is a nice round number, don't you think? Merrick winced. That was a lot, but they didn't have much bargaining power. You must have some pretty good information for that kind of price. Of course, she said, smirking slightly. This is stuff only I can tell you. Bakura narrowed his eyes, a little suspicious. What kind of stuff exactly? What you were just asking, how I found you and my connection to the items. What about your relationship with Tadako? Merrick added. Taylor blinked. You're interested in Tadako? Yes, I'm trying to work out why he died. She nodded, a slight quirk at the corner of her lips. Why rather than how? I guess you think it must have been a shadow game too then, huh? Merrick nodded. It's the only thing that makes sense. So how's 20,000 yen sounding? Merrick and Bakura exchanged a glance. Merrick didn't even need to use the rod for them to mutually agree. Yeah, we can steal that much money without anyone noticing. God damn it. Deal, Merrick said, and I'll pay for the meal too, he added with absolutely no intention of actually paying for the meal. He had the rod with him, so he might as well use it. She grinned. Nice, I like you two. Good, Bakura said shortly. Now start talking. How'd you find us this morning, and why did you think Merrick killed Tadako? Taylor sighed, pushing her hands into the pocket of her hoodie, lowering her voice. I kind of suspected Tadako died because of a shadow game too, and you had all of the items, so I jumped to conclusions. It was the only thing that made sense. And as for finding you, that's a little complicated. She glanced around, making sure no one was listening, then leaned in slightly. I have a connection with the scales. It's been in my family for a generation before me, given to my mother by a priest named Shadi. Shadi, the pair of them said in unison before glancing at each other confused. You know Shadi? You know Shadi? Bakura blinked, frowning. I'm surprised you do. Merrick shrugged, feeling slightly shaken, but being suddenly reminded of Shadi of that day was unnerving. We'll talk about it later, he said slowly, glancing back at Taylor. Go on. Taylor blinked, looking slightly amused and bewildered. Yeah, well, Shadi gave the scales to my mother years ago. It responds to me the same way that it does to her. She left it to me when she died, but long story short, my asshole brother was a stupid asshole and the family lost it. Bakura looked thoughtful. And your mother got the scales at least 10 years ago, I assume. Taylor paused, frowning slightly. I mean, yeah, but it was way more than that. She had them since before I was born. Why? Nothing. Go on. She swallowed nervously. I haven't seen the scales since I was younger, but I've felt its energy multiple times, and twice recently, once yesterday morning and once this morning, and I used that feeling to track you. Merrick frowned. You could use its energy to track me? The same energy Star was talking about? Yeah, well, not to track you, but to track the scales. You just happen to be nearby. Couldn't you do that if someone was using the rod, but it was far away from you? I don't think so. Bakura glanced at him. Are you sure? Because that's definitely a thing. Ryu was able to retrieve the ring after Honda threw it out a window one time because I was making it give off energy for him to sense. Merrick shifted uncomfortably. Well, I guess I've never had to track the rod down like that, although I can think of multiple instances where I maybe should have felt something. McCord didn't respond, deep in thought, but for Taylor to sense the scales, something must have set them off. Usually it would be someone using them, but no one's touched them. Taylor frowned. Wait, really? I assumed someone had. They both glanced at Merrick, who just shook his head, feeling incredibly confused. One more thing to add to the list of things that make absolutely no sense. After a few more moments of silence, Taylor shrugged. Anyway, whatever has been causing them to act up, that's how I found you. And my connection with them is probably why I can see you too, she added, nodding at Bakura. Merrick nodded, surprised at how open she was being. We are paying her, I guess. And what about your relationship with Tadako? To Merrick's surprise, Taylor grinned. I guess you heard about that from Hirata. He told you I was Tadako's girlfriend? Yeah. Yeah, he's not gonna be up to speed on that. I'm gay. Merrick blinked, surprised. Though he probably wouldn't have been if she had told him she'd. What? Though he probably wouldn't have been if he hadn't been told she'd been dating a guy already. The hair was a bit of a clue now that he thought about it. Oh, cool. So he broke off as Bakura tapped on the arm, smirking, then mouthing the words Millennium Gaydar. God, fucking shut up. I really want to watch Yu-Gi-Oh! The Abridged series again, but like, it's not the time. The duelist took in a deep breath as he was assaulted with flashbacks to Battle City, but he refused to indulge the spirit. That was a stupid in-joke. They were not talking about this now. Everything okay? Taylor was glancing between them nervously. Merrick cleared his throat, giving her an apologetic smile. Yeah, sorry, that's fine. He's just being a bastard. So, if you're gay, why did Hiroki think you're dating Tadako? Taylor shrugged. Well, he was right, for a time. I wasn't sure how accepting my family would be once I fully realized I like girls. I kind of freaked out, actually. The only person I knew who wasn't straight was Tadako. We were in the same grade in school and shared a couple of classes, and he was very openly bi, she said, laughing fondly. And since he wasn't dating anyone already, I asked him for help out of the blue if he would fake date me, as if just because I'd suddenly realized it, everyone else would too, and I wanted to hide. She took another sip of her soft drink and smiled slowly. And he actually said yes, because he was a selfless idiot like that. We dated for about 6 months. Dated, in quotes. Merrick nodded. And he was bi. Do you know if he liked you, that way? No, I don't think so. We mostly played video games. He was an amazing friend, though, she added, looking wistful, adding casually. Which was why I was so ready to murder you. Seriously, ask anyone. He was a great guy. That's why this whole thing is so strange. He didn't really have any enemies. As Merrick began to reply, a waitress came over with the ramen. Both of them made a start on their food while Bakura glanced at Taylor, saying, Did you ever tell Tadako about the scales? Taylor shook her head after she finished her mouthful, wiping the corner of her mouth with her hand. No, by that point I hadn't seen them for a year. Then why did you lose them? Or when did you lose them? Around August, 4 years ago. Bakura frowned. If you sensed people using them since then, why didn't you try to track them down? Taylor gave him a wry kind of smile. I would have if I could, but I was halfway across the world. I grew up in Japan, but I lived in California for 6 years. I only came back to Domino a couple of years ago. Merrick nodded. and that was after Kaiba Corp hosted the Battle City tournament. Taylor frowned. I guess so. It sounds familiar, but if it was Duel Monsters, it could just be because Tadako talked about it. Merrick nodded. Battle City had been such a big deal at the time, there was no way she could have forgotten if she'd been in Domino. And then the items all went back over to Egypt. She must have just missed them. Taylor returned to her ramen, apparently unconcerned. As Merrick took a mouthful of his own, Bakura asked, "Why did you agree to meet with us today?" Taylor shrugged. I mean, I was curious as to why you were in Japan again. If it wasn't because you'd killed Tadako, anyone who suddenly shows up with 7 Millennium items is bound to be interesting. Merrick nodded. Bakura glanced at him, looking concerned. Merrick had another mouthful of ramen, activating the rod, sitting in his lap. "What's up?" "Again," Bakura replied silently. "She said you were in Japan. Again. Should she know that?" Shit, good point. Merrick had some more of the ramen, brow furrowed, glancing at Taylor. Maybe I can find out whether she knows about Yugi's history with the puzzle and Atem. "Did you know Yugi at all?" Taylor shook her head. "No, I haven't met him. Why do you ask?" He'd be the most logical person to suspect, right? If you think it was a shadow game? Yeah, but he didn't have an item. Merrick nodded. That would make sense for her to say whether she knew about the item's recent history or not. Come on, give me something. Still, it's unlikely that he's not connected to this somehow, don't you think? Especially since a shadow game is usually started by one of two participants, but neither of them had the means as far as you know, right? Yeah, right. Fuck, they didn't tell me anything. Bakura glanced at Taylor. Were you trying to work out what happened to Tadako too? Taylor shook her head. Honestly, not really. It hadn't occurred to me that the items might be involved until yesterday. I wasn't expecting to find all 7 in one place this morning either. I was kind of thinking on the spot when I accused you of doing it, actually. Merrick grimaced. You convinced yourself pretty quickly. Yeah, well, it sounded like you were openly admitting it, too. She took another mouthful, then looked up at Merrick again, saying as clearly as she could through a mouthful of ramen. By the way, if it wasn't Tadako, who did you kill? That's not your business, and it's not relevant to any of this. Taylor paused, swallowing. Did they deserve it? Merrick nodded. All right, none of my business, then. The duelist blinked. Wait, really? I mean, you seem like a pretty decent, reasonable person, she said, twirling some more noodles on her fork. So I'll take your word for it. Merrick nodded, his shoulders relaxing. If only talking to Akira about that had been that simple. Bakura glanced at Merrick for a moment, sensing his relief, then looked back at Taylor. Do you have any other questions for us? Yeah, just the one. What exactly are you? She said, gesturing towards Bakura. Bakura looked away, looking tense. I don't really know. A ghost, I guess. Yeah, but why? How? I don't know, he repeated, a sharpness in his voice, still not meeting her gaze, but I'm working on it. Alright, Taylor lifted her bowl, drinking the remainder of the soup, then stood up. I'll get the meal. Consider it thanks for not trying the rod on me again. Merrick stood up too. No, you don't have to. I was going to get a takeaway box as well, so I'll get that too, don't worry, she said, a slight quirk to her lip. It's not like this stuff's expensive. Merrick nodded, slowly sitting down again. Alright, if you're sure. I guess it's better for my conscience if I don't brainwash the staff anyways. Taylor nodded and headed up to the till, pulling a wallet out of the pocket of her hoodie. Merrick glanced at Bakura. Do you think any of that could be helpful? Bakura still looked vaguely disgruntled. I suppose so, if it's true, but according to Taylor, Tadako didn't know a thing about the items, so what does it matter if she used to have one? Yeah, I guess you're right. Anyway, how do you know Shadi? Merrick swallowed. He was there the day when my dad died. Something he said was what made me want to destroy the pharaoh so badly. At least that was part of it. Bakura was staring at him, his frown deepening. How long ago was that again? 8 years ago, just before Christmas. The spirit looked confused for a moment. He stood at the table, deep in thought. Weird. Why? I thought I killed him about a year before that. It took a moment or two for this to sink in. Then Merrick's eyes widened. Wait, what? Hey guys, Taylor said cheerfully, heading back over the table, placing a plastic bag next to Merrick, brushing her hair out of her eyes. You ready to go? Merrick and Bakura exchanged a glance. Shadi was something they would have to work out later. The duelist nodded to Taylor, standing up. Yeah, I think so. We could walk you over to your bus stop or something if you wanted to talk about anything else. Nah, no need. I'm meeting up with my girlfriend a couple blocks away. Merrick smiled to see you've got a girlfriend now. You're fully out. Taylor nodded, opening the door for them. Sure am, since the family isn't a problem anymore. She swallowed, adding before Merrick or Bakura could say anything. Her name's Misato, and if you drag her into any of this, I'll actually stab you next time. Merrick frowned, not missing the way she'd taken the attention off that comment about her family. Yeah, sure, noted. Her mother was given the scales, but she's dead. The rest of her family, potentially still homophobic. Poor thing. They stepped outside. Taylor put her hood up as all three of them were buffeted by a cold gust of wind. We'll see you later, Merrick, Bakura. Merrick opened his mouth to respond, but Bakura cut across him, a sharp edge to his tone. Wait. They both glanced at him, confused. Merrick almost subconsciously placed one hand on the rod, which hung at his belt. Is something wrong? Bakura didn't look at him. He was glaring at Taylor with enough intensity to make anyone want to shrivel up. You're hiding something still. Merrick glanced between them. Did I miss something? Taylor frowned. Bakura cut her off, narrowing his eyes into slits. You never asked for my name, and I never told you. Yes, you asked who I was this morning, but you left before I said anything. How did you learn my name between then and now? Taylor bit her lip, glancing around nervously. She swallowed, rubbing the back of her neck. Are you sure? Yes, I'm sure no one mentioned it, Bakura snapped, and frankly, although I don't know how involved with the items your family was beyond keeping the scales, you seem to know more than you should about their recent history, though you've tried not to give that away. So what gives? Taylor nodded, biting her lip, looking away for a moment. Honestly, Bakura repeated. Taylor paused, thinking. That's worth much more than 20,000 yen. Merrick stepped forward between Bakura and Taylor. He didn't want to fight, not when he could easily produce any money they needed, so as long as he could brainwash someone wearing a nice-looking suit into writing the check. How much? The scales. What? His eyes widened. What? God damn it. The scales. If I tell you anything else, you've got to give me the scales first. She said slowly, almost carefully, her eyes flicking between the spirit and the duelist, crossing her arms in front of her chest. No way, Merrick said sharply, not even pausing to consult Bakura. We can't do that. Why not? It's not like you're using them. I could help you work out what's causing those energy flares in the items. You wouldn't keep the necklace from your sister, would you? She pressed a more aggressive edge to her voice. Merrick's eyes widened. You do know about things. Maybe, but look, she broke off, a kind of bitterness in her voice, which was also accompanied by panic. I can't tell you why unless you give me the scales first, but I swear I haven't lied to you, and I haven't withheld anything about the last few days. We're not enemies, Merrick. We don't know that, Bakura spat. Why should we trust you if we know you're hiding something from us? I wouldn't have to hide it if I had the scales, so she broke off suddenly, clutching her forehead. Merrick suddenly felt a strong pang of dread combined with sympathy. He tenderly placed one hand on her shoulder, tightening his grip on the rod. Taylor. She grunted, gently pushing his hand away, taking a step back, keeping her eyes closed, taking deep breaths. Then after a long exhale, she lowered her hands and straightened, shaking her hair out of her eyes. I'm fine. But I'm fine. You're not giving me the scales, so I can't tell you what that was. Merrick nodded, unsure. Yeah, I suppose so. We're still not handing over the scales, so I guess it's how it's got to be. After a long pause, Taylor swallowed, glancing at the ground. Well, it was worth a shot. I guess I'll see you around then. Yeah, once your story starts fitting in with some other things, I'll get the money for you, Merrick said carefully. Thank you for telling us what you could. She grimaced. It's nothing. If you think there's anything else I can do, let me know. And you can ask me anything about Tadako. Thanks, I'll keep that in mind. Taylor nodded, beginning to leave. Bakura continued to glare at her silently. Merrick hesitated, then called out, Hey, Taylor? Good luck with whatever that was. She smiled wryly at him. Yeah, thanks. Then she turned her back on them, pushing her hands into her pockets, and made her way down the street, deeper into the city without looking back. Merrick didn't even look at Bakura, staring after her. That was another personality, wasn't it? The spirit nodded, definitely. Cool. They stood in silence for a moment, contemplating how they both managed to get into this mess. Merrick peered inside the bag of takeaway ramen. Shit, I didn't ask Taylor to get something vegetarian. Alright. Before it could fully occur to Merrick that both of them had taken the possibility of there being another Taylor a bit too well, he shivered and pulled the coat around himself. Let's get out of the cold, yeah? Bakura nodded, still glaring at nothing in particular. Sure. Merrick led the way back to Kaiba Corp, about 15 minutes away. He glanced at the spirit. That could have been worse, I guess. Still, whatever she's hiding bothers me. Whoever she's hiding. Yeah, well, who knows? Maybe it's not relevant. Even if Taylor knew Chidako, she doesn't seem connected to his death. Bakura nodded. You're probably right there, but I just... He broke off, his eyes flicking on to the pavement in front of them. I wonder whether it's relevant to why the fuck I'm not dead. Or I'm not dead. Merrick blinked, being honest. He'd kind of forgotten that Bakura was thinking about that too. He sort of assumed that once they worked out what was happening with Tadako, everything would come together. It would all be connected, he said slowly, watching his breath fog up in the air in front of him. At least that's what I was hoping. It'll work out. Bakura just grimaced, his voice laced with bitterness. Yeah, I sure hope it does. The duelist glanced at him, his gaze softening. I'm sure we'll work it all out eventually. Yeah, well, I think I'm done playing detectives for the moment. I don't know, I think it's kind of fun, Merrick grinned, hoping to lift the mood a bit, like being on some murder mystery TV show. And this is the premise of the first episode, Chadako's death. Merrick paused, thinking about it. Maybe, but it's too long for one episode. Maybe working this out would be the whole first season. The spirit's lip quirked slightly. Sounds like a stupid show. Too many card games and plenty law. Oh. Nah, I can totally see it. He wrapped one arm around Bakura's shoulder, stretching one hand out in front of them. Merrick Ishtar, the mysterious, off-the-beaten-track crime investigator and with a dark past, and Bakura is even more mysterious ghost sidekick. We could call it he broke off, frowning. Bakura looked amused. What should we call it? I don't know, but for some reason, Concrete? They meant to say concrete? Concrete giraffe just popped into my head. He frowned. Concrete what? Yeah, I don't know either. Never mind. They walked in silence for a few moments. Before Merrick suddenly said, You know what, there's literally nothing stopping me from brainwashing a bunch of people at Netflix, and Merrick, no. We need to stop. The spirit broke off as they heard a crash, followed by a rather excessive cursing. A few cobs of corn rolled into the footpath from around the next corner. Merrick glanced at Bakura. We'd better see if anyone needs help. Bakura didn't roll his eyes, but the look he gave Merrick had the same energy. Merrick quickened his pace slightly, rounding the corner to see a street food stand that had completely tipped over. The sign next to it said Tomorrow Koshi, as far as he could tell, it looked like grilled corn. A tall, burly man was gathering up a white tarp which had been knocked to the ground, muttering under his breath. Merrick gave him a wave. Want a hand? The man glanced in his direction. He had wrinkled eyes and a scruffy beard. Yeah, thanks, kid. I'm 19. Whatever. He helped the food seller find the corners of the tarp and fold it into a large square, then got down onto his knees and helped him pick up the ruined corn cobs. So what happened here? Bloody cat got under my feet, lost balance, and knocked everything over. Merrick straightened slightly, instantly becoming more attentive. A cat? Yeah, she's always hanging around, begging for scraps. Sweet little thing, he said, his brow creasing with worry. Hope she's all right. You think she might be hurt? He said, trying not to sound too hopeful. If there was a chance the cat was hurt, he had a reason to go looking for it. He'd never actually seen a cat up close before. The man looked unsure as he picked up a laminated piece of paper off the ground, shaking snow off it. Possibly not so hurt that she couldn't run off, but I could have trodden on her. He paused for a moment, thinking, then glanced at Merrick. You wouldn't mind looking for her, would you? Just to make sure she's okay? Merrick blinked. The request was perfect. He almost wondered whether he could have subconsciously used the rod. Me? Yeah, I'll cook up some more of this corn and give it to you free of charge if you can find her. He nodded, grinning. Deal. The food seller gave him a grateful look. Good on you. I'll be here for another few hours, but you don't go to the trouble of looking for her for that long. I think she went that way, he added, gesturing down a nearby alley. Sure, Merrick said. I'll be right back. I'm sure she's fine. Yeah, I'll be waiting here, he said, sounding tired but not ungrateful, dismissing him with a wave of his hand. Merrick nodded, glancing at Bakura, who looked exasperated but not surprised. He went in the direction of the man. The man indicated the spirit falling into place alongside him. Merrick, surely the last thing we need right now is a fucking side quest. Shut up, there's a cat involved, therefore it's self-care. Self-care, Bakura echoed? Yeah, self-care. Haven't you heard that phrase before? Anyways, oh well, it's basically looking after yourself and doing things that make you happy. Taking care of yourself. Self-care. Bakura made an amused noise in the back of his throat. And that sounds like something I would have heard of? Merrick grinned. Alright, good point. The alleyway was lined with bins, filled with what looked like waste from nearby restaurants and cafes. He glanced at Bakura. Do you think this is the direction he meant? The spirit nodded. Probably. It's an ideal spot for anything searching for scraps. As he spoke, a shuffling noise came from behind one of the bins, further down the alleyway. Merrick turned, staring in the direction of the noise, gasping softly as a small shape with round yellow eyes appeared. Oh my god, it's mine now. I want to protect it and see it grow strong and healthy until Rashid and Ishizu about it. Bakura glanced at him as the cat leapt out of the bin, landing neatly in the middle of the footpath, its sand-colored coat peppered with black flecks. Alright, maybe we should approach it quietly. Merrick hardly heard him, his attention completely on the cat. Here, kitty, 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 he cooed, crouching down so he didn't seem so big and threatening. The cat seemed to hesitate, taking half a step back, one ear angled to the side. Merrick placed a bag of takeaway ramen on the ground, opened up the box, and pulled a string of what looked to be pork. It was some kind of meat. He wasn't going to have it anyway. Tossing it down the alleyway towards the cat. The cat flinched away as it landed on the ground near it, then carefully patted over to it, whiskers twitching. It tentatively crouched to sniff the meat, ears pricked up with interest, taking a small bite, followed by a quick series of larger ones before looking expectantly at Merrick, raising its tail. Bakura glanced between them. Right, we found the cat. It's not injured. We can get some free corn and go. But Kura, we can't just leave her here. Bakura paused, frowning, his eyes widening as it slowly dawned on him what Merrick was implying. No, Merrick, no. And she's so cute. Oh my god, Merrick, you can't just adopt a cat off the street. It's fine, we'll just adopt her a little bit. That's not how it works. Merrick ignored him, throwing another piece of probably pork towards the cat. It looked young as far as he could tell, although it had the build of an adult cat. It seemed undersized. The cat took it, and when Merrick held out a third piece, it padded tentatively towards him, stopping and sitting down a few feet away. He smiled, tossing another piece of meat. It flew just past the cat's head, and it spun around, crouching to lick it up, its back turned. Merrick smiled fondly at it, sitting down on the pavement. Bakura crouched next to him, looking unimpressed. This is a bad idea. He grinned. I don't know, Kura. I think we've both had worse. Touche. The spirit sat down, giving in. I can't stop you. You're lucky she's this tame. Yeah, you don't think she's already got a family or something, do you? Bakura shook his head. I doubt it. We're nowhere near the suburbs. She hangs around the corn stand for food, and she's looking pretty skinny. True. The cat was looking at Merrick again, its tail twitching back and forth. Merrick smiled and threw some more meat in its direction. Bakura looked surprised. You're not going to try to have it get closer? You could leave the food on the ground near us. He shook his head. I don't want to force it. It needs some time to get used to me, and it might if we just sit here for a while. The spirit blinked. Yeah, sure. When did you get so good with cats anyway? Or exactly. Merrick ducked his head, feeling a little embarrassed. I mean, I'm not, really. I grew up with a pet snake, so I had to always try to make sure it wasn't fearful of me, because that's when they lash out. And when I was a kid, after, when I was plotting to get revenge on the pharaoh, I didn't have any kind of plan after that. But I knew I wanted a cat, and when I was 13, Rashid found some books on them for me. I pored over them for hours, he said, quietly smiling. Bakura was silent for a few moments. Merrick glanced at him. He was looking away, the tiniest quirk at the corner of his lip. Merrick grinned, elbowing in the ribs. Oh my gods, Bakura, you're smiling. Merrick could have sworn the spirit's complexion darkened slightly before hiding his face behind the mess of white hair facing the wall. Shut up, it sounds like a nice memory. Yeah, it is. You got any? There was a pause. Then, we had a cat. Merrick sat up straighter, looking over at him, more excited than he should have been by the mental image of a tiny Bakura and a fluffy kitty. Really? What did she look like? What was her name? Bakura stifled a laugh, attempting to continue to glare at nothing in particular as though his pride depended on it. He was called New. I don't know how to say that. Merrick grinned, like the old Egyptian word for rat. Yeah, he wasn't really ours. He just lived in Elna, getting food from a handful of different families. Bakura smiled a little again, slightly wistfully. I liked him, though. He ran off when, Merrick felt himself smiling, too, glancing back at the cat in the alleyway. He didn't call Bakura out for smiling again. He needed to do it more often, and he didn't want to ruin it. Well, I'm glad he was safe. Yeah, me too. Well, that sure was hundreds of years ago, though. Merrick grinned. Yeah, you old fart. I swear to the gods, Ishtar, I will tear out your esophagus and shove it up your ass. Sorry. It's difficult to like. Alright. I mean it, Merrick. Do not push me, Bakura said, smirking, his not quite meeting his eye, clearly trying to sound threatening, but unable to keep a hint of laugh out of his tone. You're just jealous that I'm wiser than you. High wisdom, low intelligence, Merrick teased. Bakura rounded on him, looking both amused, impressed, and offended. Did you just try to roast me with a tabletop RPG pun? Merrick grinned. I don't know. Make an insight check. Fine, you got me. I hate you. Fuck off. The spirit refused to look at Merrick, but he was smiling. Merrick grinned, feeling far more triumphant than he should have, especially given that Bakura was definitely already working out how he'd get him back. At least listening to Rio talk about D&D was finally good for something. I just scrolled the wrong way. Oh, God. Okay. He turned his attention back to the cat. It was still hanging around a few feet away from them, eyeing the box of ramen, looking almost hopeful. Merrick reached inside the box to give it more. Bakura just glanced at it, looking content. Merrick held a thin piece of meat in front of him for a few moments, but the cat wouldn't come any closer, simply sitting down, wrapping its tail around his paws, watching him hawkishly. Merrick smiled, tossing in the meat. I'll come back tomorrow to see if you're any friendlier, kitty. Bakura suddenly spoke up. We should call her Sekhmet, after that one cat goddess of war. Merrick grinned. I like it. Then he hesitated, glancing in Bakura's direction. Seriously, though, do you really want to keep her too? You should probably have some kind of say, since you'll have to put up with her as long as you're with me. The spirit stiffened, then looked away. I mean, it's a dumb idea, but I can't stop you. Merrick took a moment to work out the spirit's response and then grinned, only just stopping himself from rolling his eyes. Of course, Bakura wouldn't want to admit that he liked the cat, since he seemed to equate fondness for other living creatures with weakness. Proud bastard. True, but that doesn't answer my question. He swallowed. Well, she is cute. Bakura. Yes, fine, I want to keep her. Now leave me alone, he said, giving in, hiding his face with his hair, muttering something that sounded suspiciously like, you are so going to the fucking Shadow Realm. Merrick just grinned, feeling yet another disproportionate amount of triumph. He threw some more food to Sekhmet. They sat in silence for a moment or so as snow began to fall, settling on Merrick's hair and shoulders while it passed right through Bakura. Soon enough, though, Merrick started shivering. Bakura glanced at him. You should probably get home before you get too cold. We'll talk to the corn guy on the way back. Yeah, let's do that. And we'll come back again tomorrow? Bakura nodded. Sure. Merrick smiled smugly to himself, standing up and dusting himself off as Sekhmet skittered back a few feet, startled by Merrick's sudden movement and size. The duelist smiled, tossing her the last piece of soupy meat from the ramen. See you, Sekhmet. We'll be back. Sekhmet crouched down to eat the food, paying him no mind. As Merrick adjusted his coat, Bakura shuffled awkwardly. By the way, Merrick? Yeah? Don't take this the wrong way, but I'm glad you're here. It's not so bad not being alone all the time, he said quickly, as if he didn't want to make a big deal out of it, not quite meeting Merrick's eye. Thank you for letting me hang around. Merrick blinked, surprised. That was probably the most sentimental thing anyone could expect from the spirit. Aw, thanks, Kura. You're okay company, too. Yeah, well, I'll take it back if you call me that, he muttered, glorying at nothing in particular. No, you won't, Merrick grinned. Fuck you. Look, it's nothing to do with you specifically. It can be nice having someone. The duelist nodded. Yeah, fair enough. But if there's anything you like about me, you can say it, he grinned, wondering just how far he could push his luck. Bakura paused, looking thoughtful. Well, I suppose we do compliment each other. Yeah, how? You've got high intelligence, low wisdom. Before Merrick could protest, he continued, smirking. You know at least 3 languages, but failed to notice the darker personality you shared with your mind for 5 years. Merrick was silent for a few moments. Bakura winced. Sorry, was that too much, or... Then Merrick laughed. He doubled over, grinning at the pavement, resting his hands on his knees as he took a few moments to collect himself. Sorry, I mean, it's awful. You're awful. He broke off again, covering his mouth, eyes shining with amusement, forcing himself to take a deep breath. He couldn't bring himself to feel insulted or traumatized. He grinned at Bakura. It's funny when you say it like that. The spirit looked relieved. His lip quirked ever so slightly upwards. Of course it is. Merrick shook his head, taking a deep breath, still smirking. High intelligence, low wisdom. I'll cop that. Glancing one last time at Sekhmet, he pushed his hands into his pockets, the smile on his face refusing to fade. He still wasn't sure how he'd managed to make a friend out of Bakura, the same Bakura who'd been actively gunning for people who Merrick had come to care about, and who would happily kill people without a second thought. Bakura who would probably abandon him as soon as it suited him. Bakura who didn't show his vaguely sensitive side to anyone except Merrick. He smiled. Bakura might not be the most noble person. No, that was an understatement. He was awful, and Merrick would always have a hard time trusting him completely. But these moments of peace made him want to. These little moments of peace were what made Merrick count him as a friend. Oh my god. Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay, so, yeah. I believe this is the last chapter that we have updated. I don't know why it says chapters 11 out of 55, but yeah. So that'll be the end for this episode because it's probably been like an hour or more. I don't have to stop recording soon anyways because, some things. Anyways, Next time we will have something completely different. Even I don't know what we're reading next because last time we finished Unearthed Arcana. I mean, technically not finish it. I just said I was done with it because I was like, I don't care about this anymore. I don't want it. So, yeah. Apparently, this was part 6 of Not Guilty by BrightBriar. I I don't know. That's just what it says in the last one. What? Yeah, I'm confused. How is it that long ago? And I don't know. Anyways, yeah, that'll be it for now. Next time we will come back with more of this, or we'll come back with a story that I don't even know, and then after that we will finish up what's currently of the story. I don't even if it's even if it's God damn it, even if it's like God damn it, even if the story gets updated in the future, which it probably will, unless this is like the last chapter. I probably won't continue reading it just because, like, yeah, I'm sorry. Like, I might read it by myself, but I'm probably not gonna make another episode on it. Just because I want to like leave it how it is for the moment. So yeah, that'll be about it. I don't really got anything else. Yay! Ooh, that's about it.